Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast celebrating its 6th year and over 250 episodes. Yes, after 6 years, I am still the host, David Lloyd, and my plan for this episode is to kind of talk about how we got where we are here after 6 long years, and then follow up with a little bit of a retrospective on playing Golden Sun on Game Boy Advance in the 2020s. So folks at home keeping track will likely notice that our official 250th episode actually came a few weeks ago, and we didn't it came with kind of no fanfare. I wasn't even on that episode actually. The way the scheduling worked and just how things kind of came about just kind of came and went, and so it was partly because of coincidence, but also I'm not too much into the self-congratulation. I don't really like getting into that kind of discussion of how things are going or whatever. But at the same time, I'm also kind of deeply proud of what we've been able to do with this podcast and for how long we've been able to keep it going. And that the quality of the episodes, in my opinion anyway, only seem to get better with time. So, after reflecting on it, I kind of came to the conclusion that not addressing the achievement is kind of disrespectful to everyone else that contributes to the podcast and makes it what it is and has kept it going for so long. So I just want to take a few minutes to thank everyone who makes this podcast possible. And I'll start with the co-hosts. I couldn't ask for a better group of friends to talk about video games with. Without Casey, Jordan, and Paige, there just wouldn't be a podcast, or an audience that would want to listen to it. They're terrific. And just to kind of probably talked about this a few times on the podcast before, but I mean, the whole concept of the Thirsty Mage began as a chat room with myself and Casey, and also Perry Burkham of the Talk Nintendo podcast. At the time, Casey and I were playing through Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and we were just filling up that chat room with it was basically a play-by-play of how the game was going. It was me saying to Casey, "Did you see this moment?" And then Casey is like, "Did you get to this part?" And then it was just the two of us were just kind of swooning over Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Perry having to put up with pages and pages of text that because he wasn't playing the game, so he kind of played vicariously through us. But we just it was over 100. I think it was about 120 hours by the time we got to the end, and we had like just pages and pages of all these like moments that we shared together. And it was kind of in that moment that we had realized that playing RPGs together with friends just made the experience better. It's much more fun when you can share all these incredible moments with someone else, and that was kind of what led to the podcast's origins. So Casey again was in that very first episode with me and has been around ever since. And so for Jordan, his first episode was actually the 10th episode. He wasn't with NWR at the time when we first started the podcast, but I think one of the early things he did with us was join in when I had mentioned that we were doing an episode on the entire Final Fantasy franchise. So he joined me for a few of the different games to talk about them. And yeah, it didn't take long to figure out Jordan was a kindred spirit, and it's just natural that he stayed along, and he's been on the majority of the episodes ever since. I would say probably at least 200. And yeah, so it's just been again, Jordan's been there from early on, and again couldn't do it without him. And the same with Paige. Paige's origins very similar to Jordan. I'd actually been reading some reviews of RPGs that Paige had been writing. This was during 2020 actually. There was, I think it was Langresser for Switch. Was the first one that I kind of came across, and then I read a few more, and then I was like, man, this is, she really knows her stuff. So I invited her to be on the podcast, and she joined us for episode 61, which was kind of just a topic episode about the different inventory systems in RPGs. And yeah, it was just clear right away that she was a great person to talk to. very knowledgeable about RPGs and video games in general. A joy to talk to. So very happy that she's been putting up with our shenanigans for the past 4 years. So yeah, it's just, it's just incredible to have them on this journey with me, and even more so considering that the amount of commitments that they have to other things. Casey also he's been co-hosting the Talking to Tono podcast for even longer than our podcast has been going on, and so him with Perry and now Alex. So you got that, and then Casey also has a new child along the way, so also juggling that. Jordan has been writing reviews for years as well. Recently wrote a book, so working on that. A book which you should buy, by the way. The link is available on the thirstymage.com. And Paige also does a lot of work with RPG Site, has her own YouTube channel. Also recently had a child, so juggling all of those commitments. So it's just incredible that they're able to, do all that plus their day jobs, plus take care of their families, and just to have the time to put into our podcast here to help spread the RPG joy. So to the three of them, I just want to say I appreciate everything they've done and continue to appreciate it. So much easier to do that when they're not here listening in the chat room. So I thought this was the perfect episode to give them the kudos that they richly deserve. So the next group of folks I want to thank is the wonderful community that continues to contribute financially through Patreon. Podcasts are surprisingly expensive to maintain. We currently have two major sources of expenses. One are hosting fees, and the other is the monthly cost for the actual recording software. So for years, though, I can't remember the exact year we started. It was a few years ago that we started Patreon. And, we have a small but dedicated group that is generously providing a few dollars a month. And this cost is basically covering the hosting fees. So this is for like the podcast, the website, the fees for having the web address and that sort of thing. So for privacy, I don't want to name names just because, I'm sure some people would appreciate being named and others maybe not so much. So I just want to say, on a whole, you know who you are, and I'm very, very thankful that you've been able to continue to help us cover these costs, and it really does allow us to keep on going and continue to share our thoughts and opinions with you every week. One of the new things that's come around is in the past year, the recording software originally, Zencaster is the one we use. It originally was free during COVID. And then it's now they've gotten rid of the free plan, so now it's a little over $25 a month. So that cost I'm covering myself, which is fine. But I mean, the podcast wouldn't survive if I was covering everything. So the Patreons really are keeping things going. So again, just to everyone that's generously helping to keep the lights on, I want to thank you very much. If you're a frequent listener and you think you could spare a few bucks a month, it would be great if you'd consider joining the Patreon. You can get there by patreon.com/thethirstymage, or you can go to thethirstymage.com, and under the follow us on the left-hand side, there's a big P for Patreon if you want to click on there. Again, like really every dollar does help, and you'll get access to the podcast a week before the public gets it, before it hits a public feed. And then going forward, we used to do a podcast, Patreon-only podcast called Abed Time. And I'm going to be starting that back up so that there's additional rewards for the loyal Patreon community. So you'll be seeing that monthly or semi-monthly when available, and those will start up again in this March. So perfect time to join. And lastly, I want to thank our community on Discord. So as social media burns down all around us, our Discord community it's remained steadfast. It's even more important now that it's, people are kind of scattering in the wind from Twitter and going to different platforms and that sort of thing. So it's great to have a constant source of positivity and nice discussion. Knowing you have friends only a text or GIF away, just makes the things that much more enjoyable. Whether we're discussing the lore of the Legends of Heroes, or ranking on Octopath Traveler and Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, or now, lately we've been motivating each other in a health and fitness channel, which it's been great for me, and I know there's a few other people that appreciate it as well. I'm just really proud of how positive our Discord is. It's been years that we've had it run and never run into a problem. Everyone is great. It's nice to have people around when you have a thought that you want to talk with people about, or if you want to talk about games, if you're looking for what game's next, what game should I play, sort of thing. Even if you're just a casual RPG fan and you only listen maybe to the odd episode here and there, I'd still encourage you to join our Discord channel, because we do talk about RPGs a lot, but we talk about a lot of things, basically all video games. We've had discussions on like Mario and everything under the sun. Like, yes, we're RPG fans, but we're also video game fans. So if you're looking for a very positive community, you can't find one better than ours. And the link to the Discord is, again, on our website, thethirstymage.com. You'll see the Discord link there, or the little image that you can click on that'll take you there. So again, would love to have everyone out there, and it's a great source for just having discussions with people that aren't going to turn into a troll job or some kind of like negative spin. So yeah, I really recommend people come out to that. So I know these thanks are running a bit long, and I did promise to talk about Golden Sun this episode, but yeah, I just wanted to really make sure that the people that deserve recognition got it. This is a bit of a niche podcast, and the fact that it survived for 6 years is amazing, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. So again, wanted to thank everyone involved, and want to thank everyone that continues to listen, and yeah.
Glorious. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. Glorious. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend, and I'll do what I must. No, I won't give in, oh so glorious. Until the end.
I guess we'll get into why you're probably here, which is a retrospective on Golden Sun. I'd have to say it's been an interesting playthrough of this Game Boy Advance game in 2024, I guess now. I think I might have started it at the end of 2023, but I've been kind of chipping away at it. And yeah, it's interesting. It has kind of a big legacy. On Metacritic, I think it's got like a 91. I know it was a big deal at the time. It's been interesting for me because I didn't have a Game Boy Advance back then. I kind of fell off the wagon for handhelds. I was a kind of a late teenager by that point, kind of in that N64 era. And yeah, so I wasn't really into handhelds. I would have had the N64 at the time, and then I would have went on to PlayStation. At that point, I was into PC gaming and PlayStation 2, I guess, when it came out in the 2000s. But yeah, so it was always heard about this RPG on Game Boy Advance that people were always praising, and nice to finally get around to playing it. And it's one of those things. To me, I think my kind of takeaway is that maybe there's a little bit of a nostalgia buff to its reputation. Maybe people are remembering it a little bit more fondly. I know in the Discord we had talked about it's potentially like for the Nintendo fans who kind of stuck with Nintendo things. There really wasn't any RPGs, or any decent RPGs anyway, on the Nintendo 64. So there might have been this kind of appetite for RPGs at the time. So maybe this just kind of hit at the right time. And so, when it came out, it would have been, it's a Camelot game published by Nintendo. So it would have got a lot of fanfare, and so I think it was the game at the time. Playing it now, it's an interesting experience. I went in not realizing that this is really the first half of two games. I knew there was a second game, but I didn't understand just how important the second game was to the overall experience. But before I get into that, I guess I'll just talk about, the one of the things that people should definitely know is that the beginning of the game is a slog. Like it's definitely one of those RPGs that takes some time to ramp up. Golden Sun in itself is a game with not a whole lot of story to it. I would say that the majority of the story is very centered at the beginning of the game. There is a lot of setup to what's going on. So like the first couple hours, really, like you're not doing a whole lot. There's a little bit of some battles in that, but I'd say probably the first 60 or so minutes is mostly just kind of walking or doing a few things around the village, but the kind of getting the basis of the whole story, which is there's these kids in this village, and there's a volcano that's erupting, and the villagers are like scrambling to try to contain the damage so that the village can kind of survive. And yeah, so the village, part of the village, I guess, gets a little bit destroyed because there's one kid gets washed away, and then I think some of the parents end up dying in the process of saving the village or whatever. And then the game kind of starts up years later, where the group of kids that are a little bit older now, and they kind of stumble upon this shrine or temple or whatever that's in their village or just north of their village, which houses these stars, which are kind of the basis of all the magic in the world, I guess. And it's basically alchemy is the overall thing that's going on in the game, is that there's this group of people that are trying to kind of I don't know if it's rediscover or just like take on like this thing of alchemy. Like they want to control the alchemy in the world, and there's these it's all down to like their elements, right? There's the earth, fire, wind, and so yeah, they've got the four stars that get pulled out of this temple, and it kind of starts this chain reaction of bad things happening or whatever. So this group steals three of the four stars anyway, and goes off to, they're trying to light these lighthouses around the world to kind of jumpstart alchemy, I guess, get the elements working in the I guess the whole point of it is that they have to, if they light these lighthouses, then it turns up the power of what they can do, I guess, magic wise or whatever. So that's their whole thing. But I guess in the process of lighting the lighthouses, it sets up like the world for disaster, I guess. Like it could create an apocalypse is basically what I take from this. But the so it's basically these two, Garrett and Isaac, leave on a journey to stop this group of people from lighting the lighthouses, and to kind of grow stronger, to be the defenders or whatever. And the majority of the game is just them going from town to town. Like again, there's not once that kind of first couple hours is done and you get the gist of the story, there's not a whole lot of story that goes along with it. You're just kind of moving from place to place, and that's the pretty much the entirety of the game. Is like you meet up with Ivan in a town, and he joins your party, and then later on you end up at the first lighthouse. You end up meeting Mia, who rounds out the party of four, and then you're just getting into battles, and you get to the second of the four lighthouses at the end of the game, and then the game's kind of just over. It's to be continued. So. And I guess the story goes is that Nintendo, when they were making the game, they realized they were overly ambitious, and that the story would have to span over two games. So that's where Golden Sun is the first half, and Golden Sun the Lost Ages is the second game. Not sure if I'm going to get into the second game, but the first game that I finished up here was about 15 hours or so. So I guess just to talk about the game itself, like the pros and cons, I guess. Uh, Graphics wise, it looks fine. Like it's a GBA, and the graphics, I think they aged a little bit more. Like it's not as nice looking as say a Minish Cap, uh, but it still looks all right. Like there's at no point was I not understanding where like the environment was or anything like that. Like it's I don't know if people are going to hold it up as like you know what the GBA can do or anything like that for graphics, but I didn't mind it. It seemed fine. I think the biggest or the thing I enjoyed the most with the game, or the I guess the reason why I managed to finish the game like it kept my attention long enough was the combat system. So it uses uh, and I think one of the reasons why it kept my attention is because I would say it's kind of similar to Final Fantasy VIII's in a sense. You do have 4 party members. You have it's a turn-based system, and the essentially all the moves are all come down to these djinns that you pick up. So they're like these they look like little animals, but I guess they're like little elemental beings or whatever. And along your trip, you're picking up different elemental djinns. So like you come across a guy named Torch, and he'll be a fire djinn. So sometimes you just have to find them. Sometimes you have to battle them. But once they've joined your party, then you can basically move them around to any of the 4 people. You can create combinations of different djinns within each of the different characters, and it took me. I don't feel like the game really explained this well in game, but the class that your character is, like whether they're kind of like a knight or a healer or a mage or whatever, it's all dependent upon the djinns that you have equipped. So you could initially what I was doing was I was kind of balancing out the fire and the water and the earth throughout the different characters. Like I put one fire, one wind, one water, one earth, or whatever on one, and then balancing it out or whatever. And that was before I realized that the classes were were actually determined by what you had on there. So by the end of the game, I'd actually realized that it was more beneficial to kind of stack the different elements like together onto one character. So I think I had like all the earth on Isaac, and that made him like a higher tier of I believe Lord was his the class I ended up with at the end. But initially my thought is like, okay, I'm going to spread them out, because one of the things is that you can summon these djinns in battle, sort of like guardian forces, I guess. And they each have an ability that's done. Like some of them will attack the enemies, some of them will provide a buff or whatever. So what happens is when you summon one, you no longer equip them, so you kind of lose the benefit of having that character. Like when you have them equipped, they increase your HP and they increase your magic and that sort of thing. But then when you use it, you kind of lose whatever that was that was benefiting the character. But then the trade-off is that as you're summoning the djinns or using them in battle, they stack. So like let's say I had 4 characters, and they all each used a fire djinn, or each summoned a fire djinn for their whatever their ability was. There's a counter that adds up the ones that are unequipped, and it kind of it allows you to summon like a bigger I guess like they combine into like a bigger attack or whatever. So for example, if I had to use all 4 of the djinn, or unequipped all 4 wind, I think it's the wind ones, and then I can then summon Thor. So like Thor comes down and does this massive attack that does huge amount of damage to all the enemies on the screen. And then what happens is that over the course of a couple more turns, the djinns all return equipped back to the characters, and then you get their buffs again, and you can use their attacks again, and then you can summon them again, and you can summon the big characters again. And so it's kind of this dance of like, do you keep them equipped so that your characters are stronger and just use magic, or do you kind of focus on having these characters use the djinn so that they can then call down these like massive attacks. And so it makes it so that the combat is enjoyable. Like it gives you this interesting I don't know, like strategy, I guess. Like you could play different ways. Like there's so many different ways you can play. You can rely on characters for healing. You can make them more attackers. Having this system really gives you the flexibility to kind of play the way that you want. And there's really no limits. Like at any given time, you can just jump into the menu and make all these changes, and you can really just play on the fly. At the end of the day, I think for me anyway, I ended up, I played a lot of different ways throughout the game as it went. But on the final boss, I ended up focusing on these big, these big summons or whatever, just because they seem to be doing the biggest amount of damage. Difficulty wise, I would say that the game wasn't too hard. I didn't even realize the final boss was the final boss. Like, there really wasn't too much difficulty there. I think I ended up beating them on I think it was the first try or second try potentially, but I would say if you're kind of a newbie, or if you're not always that great at turn-based style games, I wouldn't be too scared off of Golden Sun. Like I said, the difficulty wasn't too bad. I know this game is more relevant now because I believe both Golden Sun and the sequel are in the Nintendo Switch Online service. They do look good in I personally didn't play through the Switch service, but I've seen screenshots of it, and some I know Jordan played a little bit, and I know it looks great there. I just have a hard time recommending it as unless like it's one of these things where it's like the experience was fine. I just don't know if it's worth playing this game over something else. Like, is basically, if there's a lot of other iconic games that you haven't played, I would say go to them first. Like I could name you 100 games that are better, that would be a better suit for playing than say Golden Sun. The reason why we're doing this now, or I'm doing this on my own, is Jordan and I had actually planned to do an episode together on it, and after 2 hours, he tapped out. he didn't like it. What I would say is that the idea, and I joked to Jordan about this. He said the idea of playing this game is more fun than playing the game itself. So again, for certain people, I think, well, clearly a lot of people liked it. Its Metacritic is 91, which is amazing to me. I think that's more of a shows you what was going on at the time than maybe necessarily now. But yeah, again, it was fine. I don't necessarily regret having played it. I really wish I had known that it was only half of a game when I started, because I wasn't planning on playing the sequel, and the experience of the first game doesn't really give me much motivation to play the second, because it was just kind of okay. Even the way I played it, I kind of more played this because it's the portable on the Game Boy Advance. I mostly just played this kind of in between things. Like I would play it in the morning or at breakfast time when I'm eating breakfast or whatever, or I would play like 15-20 minutes here and there when I'm waiting to pick up the kids in the car or something. Like this wasn't necessarily a game that I would like sit down and like, okay, here we go, a couple hour experience. It's like, no, like half hour here, 45 minutes there was really what I ended up with getting through this game. So yeah, I guess at the end of the day, that's where things stand with me, is that the game is fine. I can't say there was anything necessarily bad about it, other than the kind of slog to kind of get started at the beginning. After that, it's kind of just playing. It's just you're just kind of going through doing the combat. There's the odd puzzle here and there that didn't take too much thought process behind it. There's really no dialogue to get through because there's only like a couple moments that they're really talking too much. You're just kind of on a journey. So if that's your thing and you have the Nintendo Online service, then yeah, maybe it's worth giving it a try. But if you're buying into the hype, thinking that this is going to be some kind of like top 25 or top 100 experience in RPGs, I would say no. There's probably a lot better games out there to try if you haven't played them yet. So yeah, that's where I guess I'll leave the Golden Sun discussion with, and say that I wouldn't be holding my breath on, on an episode that's based on the sequel. So yeah, I guess that probably wraps it up. This is going to be a bit of a shorter episode because I don't know how much longer people will be able to put up with just me on my own without our usual witty banter and Octopath Traveler jabs. But what I will say is I'll just give people a little bit of an update going forward. I did actually just get Final Fantasy VII Rebirth the other day. I'm recording this a couple days after its launch. Excited about this game. I can't believe this game already seems way bigger in scope than I ever could have imagined. And I was imagining a lot when there was 2 Blu-rays here, but it's clear why this is a dual disc game, because I'm a couple hours in and they've kind of opened up the map a little bit, and it is enormous. I'm like in choice paralysis on like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do now? There's just too much going on here. The game starts off in calm. It's kind of following the original Final Fantasy to a certain extent, because like after you leave Midgard, you end up in calm, in kind of like a get your bearings back sort of thing. Starting the next part of the journey. So the intro to Rebirth is Cloud retelling or telling the party about Sephiroth's origins on the Nibelheim disaster, I guess I'll call it. It was interesting watching because Cloud's telling the story and or his perspective of it, and anyone who's played the original 7 kind of knows what's going to happen based on that. Even weirder when you have played. Oh, what was it was, man, I'm blanking on the name of the Final Fantasy, the Zack Final Fantasy 7 game that was on PSP, that was recently remastered on all the major consoles. See, this is why I have to have people on the podcast with me, because my memory is not what it used to be. But yeah, the game that you play as Zack, if you've played that game, then when you're kind of playing through this, it's a little weird because you'll see all like there's a ton of details to pick up while you're watching this story unfold or kind of playing. It's also neat that they let you play a Sephiroth in the intro, kind of a neat detail. So it's just, yeah, Final Fantasy Rebirth. Just I'm only a couple hours in, but it already feels like a massive achievement. Like I can't believe how much details into this in the first 2 hours alone, and just looking at the map, it's gonna be insane. So everyone can expect to see multiple episodes of that, I'm sure. Unfortunately, Casey was out of town this weekend, so he hasn't been able to start. So looking forward to him to start up so that we can do our text playthrough together. Just to let everyone know, there is a channel in the Discord that we're discussing things about the game. Any story things or any spoilers will definitely be tagged. There is a pinned comment asking people that if you want to get into the details of any of the stories or discuss like things later in the game, just to make sure that we spoiler tag them. But it'll be a wonderful resource for people to share their thoughts on the game, if they need any help in certain areas. There'll be plenty of people there playing. We already got 4 or 5 people playing it in there and discussing it inside this channel. So I invite anyone. Again, if you're not in the Discord yet, this might be the perfect opportunity, especially if you're playing Rebirth. So we'll have a few of those episodes coming. I know Unicorn Overlord is coming out soon, which I will definitely be playing. It also looks like it's going to be a banger, so we got that coming up. I know we'll have Persona 3 Reload in an upcoming episode as well. Plenty of big RPG episodes coming up that will involve more than just me yammering on here. So again, if you got through this entire episode, I want to thank you for listening. And I guess maybe my thank yous have run out. Used them all up this episode. But looking forward to continuing with the podcast. It's been a great 6 years and 250 episodes. And we'll keep this going as long as we can. So as long as you keep listening, we'll keep making them. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on this ride, and we'll see you at the next Thirsty Mage. Bye.